If I look at the Congress overall, it's really amazing to see the growth and the excitement that's happening, not only around the organization of the WBA, but the industry as a whole. It's good to see the cable operators engaged, the ISPs engaged, the mobile operators engaged, all really working on this common goal on how do you make Wi-Fi easier to use and more available to that customer. What's the user experience that we're trying to drive? How do we make it not only better, but how do we make it available in a monetized way? Well, as you know, Cisco's been involved in the WBA for many years. And so one of the interesting things, I think, is just the traction that we've seen, not only year over year, but as we go to each of these congresses, and some of the technology now that's really being adopted. I think Hotspot 2.0 has been one of the key messages of the WBA for the last couple of years, and now we're seeing that adoption actually happen in multiple different arenas. In order to make Hotspot 2.0 really come to fruition, what is it that you needed? You needed the device manufacturers integrating it, you needed the infrastructure suppliers offering it, and you needed the operators actually making it a service available on their network. So this was something that really required what I would call a floating of all boats to enable this technology. And so it's very compelling, and in some of the latest news releases from some of the device manufacturers that's happening now that have adopted Hotspot 2.0, and what's happened with some of the device vendors. Cisco has been doing Hotspot 2.0 and offering that solution since the 7.2 release, not this last January, but the January before that. That means that anybody that's deployed a Cisco network and has 7.2 code that's been available for almost 2 years is next generation Hotspot ready. That's very compelling. So seeing this adoption that's happening in the industry, and I think this excitement at the WBA is very compelling. I've said we've been involved in the WBA for many years. If you go back a couple of years, we had about 200 people that attended a year ago the WBA event. We went to San Francisco. It increased by over 100 additional attendees. Now you come here to this event, we're approaching almost 500 attendees. So obviously there's an excitement in the industry and how this technology not only provides a better user experience, but what it does from a service provider standpoint and offering new services to the user that can be monetized. As you know, we've been involved in this space for many years, both in the enterprise space and in the service provider space. So I think it's if you look at what Cisco does from an engineering and an architecture standpoint and the ability to integrate across platforms, when you have to put out a solution, it's not just about the AP or an individual component. It's not just about the controller, but it's about the AP, the controller, the switch, right? The routing system. You need to provide that overall experience that gives the user what they're really looking for when they're in that mall, or they're in that hospital, or that they're in that hotel or that hospitality venue. So you want to be able to provide that whole end-to-end experience. And so Cisco's been very much focused on that end-to-end experience and giving the user a real service that they've come to expect when they go into these different venues. So in order to do that, there's certain technologies that really need to be driven into the industry, and Hotspot 2.0 has been a good example of that. Obviously, Wi-Fi offers a great deal of spectrum that allows you to extend that access network. Now, of course, we also play in the wired space when it comes to enterprise, and we have a very successful product portfolio there. We're participating in the unlicensed space, and now if you come over to our table, we're participating in small cell and in some of the licensed space, and so we're seeing these different technologies really start to come together. And I think what's interesting is that you have this enterprise market and you have this service provider market that are starting to drive together into common goals, common type capabilities. So for example, if you go into a big stadium, is that an enterprise opportunity or is that a service provider opportunity? Well, typically that would be a service provider doing systems integration and offering what I would call carrier-grade Wi-Fi in that particular venue. And so you're starting to see more and more as these two markets start to converge in offering a solution, especially in the public arena. You're starting to see more and more that the service providers are pushing these capabilities and leveraging Wi-Fi as not only an alternate technology, but one of the key access technologies for the service portfolio that they would like to offer their customers. I think it's really about the user experience and service enablement. I think those are probably the two key messages that we really want to drive home, and I think as an industry they're really looking for. So how do you provide that better user experience, and how do you offer better service for the applications that you're trying to carry over that Wi-Fi network? And again, the WBA has been very key to this, because it allows you to offer services in a very transparent way. Automatic discovery of the network, automatic onboarding of the network, secure connectivity to the network, protecting that end user while still providing access to their data at work, access to their content at home, access to the service provider media, whether that be video or voice or all the different services that are out there, whether they're on network or over the top. That's the type of building or foundation that we're putting in place so that we can create those opportunities and that ecosystem above. That's what really Cisco is looking to do, and that's what we're helping drive in being a participant in the WBA. Well, you know, this is a stepwise process, right? Hotspot 2.0 was very strategic in enabling some of the follow-on services. So when you look at Hotspot 2.0, not to get too technical, but when you look at Hotspot 2.0, what it does is it pushes 802.11u, or the ability to advertise services, out into the device, right? So now the network can push service advertisement pre-association, because 11u happens pre-association. So if you can advertise services, and you can with 11u, which Hotspot 2.0 uses, then people know why they want to connect to the network. So if you're in a mall, why do you want to connect? Because there's services in the mall that's going to help you find the coat that you're shopping for. When you're in the hospital, why do you want to connect? Because it's going to push a service to you that tells you what room your mother's in, right? When you're in a hotel, why do you want to connect? You need to find that conference room or whatever service that's provided in that particular venue or that particular vertical. So one of the things that Cisco is very key on is, first, how do you really simplify that connection to the network? But once you're connected to the network, what do you offer next? And that really gets into now these location-based services, the ability to do geofencing, to have triggers based on crossing a geofence. And you need to be able to do that securely and in such a way that it's actually a benefit to the end user. You know, a lot of people like to talk about, well, you're going through a mall or you're going through a store and they can push all these coupons to you, right? It's not just about pushing coupons. You know, if you go to the typical user, you say, that might actually be a nuisance, right? It's about providing a service and an experience. Imagine that you're in an airport or you're landing in an airport and you're going into a layover. What's the first thing that the flight attendant says? They said, you can turn on your cell phones now, right? You turn on your cell phones, your Wi-Fi comes up, you're discovered. The system at the airport says, oh, they're registered with our loyalty program. So because they're registered with the loyalty program, we know that Matt just landed at the airport. We know that he's doing a connection and has to get over to this gate. We know that he has to go through customs. We know that the current traffic through customs is so many people. So we know how long it's going to take to get between gates. So we can tell them not only where to go, but when he needs to start heading over there. We know that it's lunchtime. We know that you're going to pass 3 restaurants. You're still sitting on the plane. Would you like to order lunch and have it in a bag and ready for you as you're on your way to your other gate and just pick it up on the way? These are the type of services. These are services not where you're just bugging a potential customer. These are potential services that users are going to start to expect from their network. And that's what this is about, and that's the direction that these things are taking. And that's why Cisco is so focused with their CMX solution on how to provide those location type services and those abilities that build an ecosystem of location and capabilities in any venue where Wi-Fi is available, which, by the way, is almost every venue. So we're pretty excited about this technology, and I think there's a lot to look forward to.